This is an instructional video on how to make a stereo cooler. A group of friends and I have been going on a float trip for over 10 years now, and we've seen a couple people on the river have these, and we've always asked about them. So we went online to see if we could buy one, and they were like $350 to $400. So we figured it looks easy enough to build, so we'll go ahead and give it a shot. And there was a couple instructional videos online, but some of them weren't very helpful, so I just kind of want to go over some of the things that I think they missed out on. Basically, with our first build, we didn't want a sub or anything. We know a lot of people put subs in them, but we figured we'd go really simple. We decided on 6.5-inch speakers. They're marine speakers, so they're water resistant. That's pretty important if you're actually going to be floating with them. After we decided on the speakers, we decided on an amp to power those speakers. One thing you want to pay attention to, you'll notice on here, they say 200 watt speakers. That's peak power, and I know a lot of companies, they advertise the peak power, but your speakers and your amp will never run at that peak power. It's basically for reasons of like a power surge. It's telling you that it could hit that peak power without destroying the equipment. But these will run at 100 watt, what they call RMS, and to be honest, I don't even know what that stands for. But and then the amp also has a peak power and then an RMS, so you'll want to pay attention to those. With these being 100 watt, I had heard that the rule of thumb is you want to power your speakers 50% higher than the wattage that they'll be running. So for instance, these are 100 watt speakers. So we went ahead and got a 300 watt amp. So that's 150 watts here and 150 watts here. And I let it run 8 hours yesterday. The battery's still kicking and the amp didn't get hot at all. And I looked up on the internet and they said the reason you do 50% more is because the amp's not overworking and the speakers aren't being overworked. So it's the most efficient way to run speakers. Don't know if any of that's true. I'm just passing the information along. After you decide on the speakers and the amp, next thing you want to do is get a cooler. You just want a good size cooler that's going to fit everything, but to where everything's not crammed. So we just went to Target. We brought our speakers in and our amp, and we eyeballed it to see what size cooler we thought was going to fit our equipment. So once we got them, we cut out the holes with a jigsaw, fitted the speakers. It comes with like a little piece of rubber so you don't get any rattle, and I'll go ahead and test this at the end of this video just so you can hear how good the quality is. And we were really surprised. The Boss Audio company is kind of like a low tier, a cheaper company, but the stuff sounded awesome. I mean, we wanted to stay cheap just because we didn't want to invest in too much into it, just because it was kind of like a test run. But we were super surprised at the quality of these speakers. So after you get the amp and the speaker taken care of, next thing's decide on a battery. There's a bunch of debate on the internet about these. A lot of people are using lawn and garden batteries. Some people are using car batteries. We decided to go with a car battery just because we found one online for 25 bucks. It was a used van battery, and we figured it would give us the most power. Next thing you'll want to decide on is a toggle switch. This here is just a rocker LED toggle switch. We mounted it inside of here. There's 3 cables. Let's see if I can turn this light on. 3 cables go into the back of this toggle switch. There's a positive, a negative, and then a remote. And those will line up to your amp. Your amp has a negative, a positive, and a remote. So you just line positive, and so on and so forth. Inside the amp itself, you'll have a negative, which is your ground, your positive power. They go into the same ports as your rocker switch. So you'll actually have 2 cables in the same port on your amp. That wasn't explained very well on the internet, so I just wanted to make sure that people knew how to wire that. As far as audio cables, we just decided on a stereo RCA standard Y splitter that goes into a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. We have an iPod hooked up to this one. A lot of people on the internet, a lot of YouTube videos, they're using dry boxes. I thought that was a really cool idea, so I went to Walmart looking for a dry box, and I found this, which is actually a little bit more expensive. But to me, after thinking about it, if it's in a dry box, you have to open the dry box and then use the iPod with wet hands. And the idea is to keep this dry. So I thought this would be a good idea to keep it dry, and then it's still usable while it's being protected. So I'll go ahead and power this up just so you can see it. Toggle switch here that powers it on. As you see, the Boss thing lights up. Kind of cool. We didn't expect that, but like I said, this stuff was fairly cheap. But the quality of it's pretty good. I'll just do something that has a lot of bass and. And I'm in an apartment, and I don't want to turn it up too loud, but just give you an idea.
Party rock! Let's go! Party rock is in the
You'll notice there's not any rattle or anything.
Everybody just have a good time.
Completely waterproof.
Lose your mind. Everybody just have a good time. Party rock is in the house tonight.
Yeah, neighbors are gonna get mad at that, but just want to make sure you guys can see. It definitely has power. Really little distortion on the side of the amp. There's little spots you can mess with, like the frequency and the bass and the line input. Kind of play with those to find your best settings so that you don't get any distortion. But yeah, that's pretty much it. This one turned out so well that two of my buddies and I are actually going to start selling them. Like I said, these, for a model similar to this, what we found on eBay, close to like $300 or more. And their speakers, if you look at the RMS power, are actually weaker than the ones that we have. So this is more powerful and it's a lot cheaper. We're going to start selling for about $250. So if you have any inquiries about getting one, let us know. We're Submerged Ozark Sound.